Hey everybody, it's with thanks to English Electric Motor Co that I have the Energica Eva Ribelle RS electric motorcycle on loan to make some videos and reviews and stuff. I've already done a first ride and I've also done a video testing out the different modes on this bike because it's kind of like you can switch between like a 125cc up to like a 1000cc performance and change the characteristics of that through like the way the engine braking is to feel like anything from like a single cylinder up to an inline four. It's quite bizarre how you can tune it that way. But yeah, so if you want to see that, watch that video. In this video, I want to give you a closer look at the bike, explain some of the technology on it and explain how it works, some of the advanced things that are on this you don't find on most electric bikes. That might also help explain why it gets to its price that it is, which is 30 grand. I spec'd this out on the website as best I could so I can give you a breakdown of how much the bike is, what's extra and how much it costs. Might be interesting. Okay, let's get through some tech specs first. So as I say, this is the Energica Eva Ribelle RS. Its peak power is 169 horsepower and its sustained power is 147 horsepower. What that basically means is when the motor spins up from 0 to about 5,000 RPM, you get 170 brake horsepower basically. Beyond that, up to its maximum, you get the full 147 brake horsepower. Now, if you know anything about physics, you'll know that the faster you go, the more power you need, and that's one of the reasons why this bike's only got a top speed of 125 miles an hour, but it will do 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds. The range on this is advertised at 261 miles of city riding, 153 miles of combined riding, or extra urban as they call it, 123. My understanding is that if you ride this bike normally, you're going to get somewhere between 100 and 120 miles per charge, and if you really spank it, you might only get about 80. At peak torque, it's producing 215 Newton meters of torque. That is quite a lot. But to my understanding, this motor is the most powerful electric motor in a motorcycle you can get. So this is, this is a bit of an Italian special. This is made in Modena, in Italy, entirely, 100% made in Italy. The battery on this bike is this big boxed section here, it's at the bottom. That is a 21.5 kilowatt hour battery and it weighs roughly 100 kilos, I believe. It is a sealed unit, to my understanding. One of the things they do on this bike to help cool that battery is it has some cooling fins on the front in aluminium, and it's also placed down low within the fairings, and then there's space around the fairing. Idea being that the wind coming in gets ducted in here and through these ducts past the battery and takes the heat away with it. Of course, another big pro on the Energica is the fact that this battery will charge 80% of its charge in 40 minutes using DC charging. I believe that it's the 20 to 100% that's very quick to charge. The 0 to 20 might be a bit slower because it kind of has to ramp up the power as it charges the battery. But as long as you recharge it over 20%, you're going to get very quick charging if you use DC charging. You can also use AC charging, as in the 3 kilowatt versions that you use in your garage at home, which I've been doing. It's much slower, obviously, but if you're leaving it overnight, it's going to get the job done. So the battery itself is air-cooled. However, the controller unit and the motor on this is actually liquid-cooled, and there is a very small radiator hidden under here, which just looks like a standard oil radiator that you find on like a Bandit or something like that. That puts liquid coolant through the motor and the control unit, which helps protect those and allows you to ride the bike harder without it overheating. Overheating motors is something that does happen in electric bikes. I've done it to a 0 myself, although that was a small one. This one seems to cope with things very well. The motor itself is a HSM, which stands for Hybrid Synchronous something. It's 300 volts, 3-phase, with 12,000 RPM. But that is reduced by, because this isn't just a motor, it's also got a transmission system on it, which is straight cut gears. And basically that reduces it 5 to 1. So at 10,000 RPM on the motor, it's doing 2,000 RPM on the gear. This is chain driven, so you can adjust your ratios still. It makes you start to wonder, like, what if you put like a 2 to 1 in there and gave it a good push to start with and see what sort of top speed you can get out of it. That's one of the nutty things about electric bikes. It's just about power output on the motor, which is very simple to equate, and then the gear ratios afterwards. That pretty much covers the unique things to this bike as an electric bike, because obviously the motor, the controller and the battery are the 3 things that make the difference on an electric. Beyond that, that is a normal trellis steel frame, that is a normal swing arm, they are normal shocks, well, the Öhlins, but we'll get to that in a minute because, they're not cheap. Obviously there's no fuel tank, the controller unit is in here, and your charging ports, which I will show you, are underneath the seat. Sorry it's a bit darker in here, but the power's in the garage. To open the seat to get to the charging ports, you just do this and it lifts up. Then in here you have your charger, and if you're using DC you pull this one out as well. That should have a cover, but the TV production people lost that, who had the bike before me. They really did a number on this thing. Here's something that's pretty cool. Let me just plug it in. Watch this. That's your charging indicator. I think this actually does represent how much it's charging. However, I don't want it to charge because I'm currently doing a range test. As it should be with all electric vehicles, the chargers get locked in. So to remove it, you just got to turn the ignition on and then it lets it go. Now, should we get to the bit you probably want to know about, which is how does this bike cost 30 grand? This is going on the current prices on the website, which appear to be in euros, which I've converted into pounds. So this bike in this spec as it is, as far as I can tell, unless I've missed some bits, is £30,368. Now, the bike itself, before we put the extras on, was £25,227, so £25,000. Keeping in mind that the Zero SRS is about 20 grand, well, I think it's around 17 upwards, to up to 20 and a little bit beyond. Zero also sell like the FSX and the FXE, which is like 10, 12 grand, 13, 14, somewhere around there. You know, electric bikes are expensive, and I've done many videos talking about electric. I've done videos explaining the maintenance between an electric and a petrol and how that can save you money back. I've also talked about why they're so expensive, because it's such a new technology, and people want to compare it to an old technology of petrol, and it's like, why would something developed over the past 100 years and may have not changed in the past, 15, 20 that much inside the engine, because companies just tend to tweak on old designs. I'm not saying that all of them are, they obviously have new things, but this, pretty much as far as I'm concerned, is the ultimate electric bike. Okay, the Ergo actually does 150 rather than 125, but I mean, this bike, it does perform for its money. But if you compare this performance pound for mile an hour or something like that, to a conventional petrol engine, 1000cc something, sure, that thing's going to come out so much cheaper on purchase. I would also say it's hard to argue that this will save you that much money back in mechanical maintenance, because given that this has got a transmission, you are going to have to do oil changes on that. There is a cooling system to change the coolant in that. And obviously batteries and motors and stuff, they have inherent lifespans, but they're actually a lot better than most people talk about, but whatever. As I say, I've been over this. I'm not going to get into that here. As I say, I've done my best to work out what this bike has got on it from interpreting what I can see on the website, and I've converted these into pounds rather than the euros that you'll see on the site. So let's go through it. I think this frame has been painted the matte black, and that is at an extra cost of £584. This has obviously got the Öhlins front suspension and rear suspension, and that kit will cost you £2,636. That's Öhlins for you. I know my DR, if I wanted to get a set of Öhlins forks for that, for just the forks, it was £2 grand. So that hasn't really got any reflection of the fact this is electric. They just cost that. They are very nice though, I will say. Although I will also say this, I think for a 30 grand bike, the fact that these aren't electronically adjusted, I know it would change the look slightly, but I just feel like if you could, with the fact that you can change the engine modes, you can change the regen, you can change all of these sorts of things, I kind of feel like the suspension should be adaptable as well. That's kind of the future, isn't it? The idea of getting on a bike and tuning it into whatever you want it to be. Sleek carbon fibre mudguard and hugger, I think it's this one in here, that is carbon fibre, £298. Sleek carbon fibre front mudguard, this one, £339, and this one's scratched to bits because, yeah, this bike's actually got some fairing damage on the other side from a TV crew doing some things to it. The windscreen kit, which I would love to not be on this bike. I know it's there for a reason. It really does help improve efficiency through aerodynamics, and it also reduces the wind drag on you. Every one of these bikes I get, they're electric. They've always got a screen on it for efficiency, and I'm like, I don't care about efficiency. Windscreen, £261. There is a piece of plastic on the back here, which just goes between the normal tail, I would say tail tidy, but the thing that sticks out. It's just a piece of plastic to stop mud splashing up through onto your back. That's £87. And you'll notice this has the racks, and that obviously comes with 2 bags. The zip-up firm cases. They're not hard cases, they're like firm material cases, reinforced material. And that kit with the racks and the 2 bags is £609. I've just realised I actually have the luggage here. It's in the garage. This is the luggage. It comes in a pair of bags, as you can see. They are just a single compartment inside, and there's some rainproof covers for them, so I'm guessing they're not inherently rainproof. Interesting, it's got one zip here, and then it's got another zip here. Oh, that extends it, I get you. So you can make it a little bit bigger. It's got a locking mechanism and the hooks, and the way this works is you get 2 bits, like bobbins, that go into there, and then it locks onto the bar using this. So you just push it on, and then push, and it's on. So there you go, there is the luggage on the back of the bike. It doesn't make it massively wider, but it is now the widest part of the bike, so you do need to be aware. It is even wider than the bars. And then to take them off, do this one-handed, you unlock it, and then push. Push, push, and it comes off. So, honestly, do I think this bike is worth its money? Well, given that I know the technology that goes into it, the amount of development that has had to go into this, I mean, for instance, the coding on this for running the bike has got over 1 million lines of code. It's a complex thing, it's covered in carbon fibre, it's made in Italy, 25 grand? Yeah, I can see that. It's expensive, and it's definitely not, you know, you're not going to say, well, that's a value for my money type thing. This is, well, look what comes out of Modena normally. Ferraris, you know, they're not made to be cheap or value for money. They're made to be fast and red, and so I can get why this is 25 grand. Some of those extras do make me laugh a little bit. £609 for 2 bags and 2 racks seems a lot to me, but I've seen a lot of that. I'm blown away by how much luggage costs on things. You've got the big Brembo kit on this. That's not cheap. Carbon fibre, that's not cheap. You know, you've got the Olins, that's an optional extra anyway, so that's one of the reasons that it's so expensive. The headstock is quite clearly machined from billet aluminium or steel. Well, it's machined from billet stuff. The frame is a bent trellis design, and I imagine that might well be hand welded because they don't produce that many of these bikes. I don't know if they've got machines to do that, but whatever. So beyond brakes, wheels, suspension, frame, and okay, some plastics and stuff, and then obviously this big carbon fibre panel on the side and all those sorts of things, all that's left is the battery, the motor, and the controller unit, and that's where all the technology and the money generally is with these things. Batteries are not cheap. They're normally about 1/3 the price of the bike. I do not know the price to replace the battery in this, unfortunately. The motor obviously also is being highly developed. That is currently the most powerful electric motor in an electric bike, so you can kind of see why there's a premium that comes with that. It's not just a motor as well, it's got the transmission on it, the straight cut gear transmission, so that's going to add more to the machining costs. And then the controller unit, as I say, well, that's just electronics, but that too can be quite expensive. And then you've got all the programming that goes into that. This is a very clever bike. It does do things like, I didn't realise this until I did a lot more reading up. The rain mode, one of the things it does in that is I noticed it didn't seem to have much torque. Well, what it will also do is it basically has ABS or something, and it basically tests the traction on the road to know how much regen it can expect to get grip for. So it won't, you know, lock up the rear in the wet by just dumbly going regen time. It will check it and go, is that going to work? Yes, it is. Okay, we can go with that. Or if it's slipping, it's going to tone down the regen a bit. So you don't have the problems which, you know, electrics got known for being quite leery and dangerous in the wet because they didn't have so much finite control in throttle. I've never had any problem with an electric bike. You know, I just respect them and gradually learn over the days that I have it, and to the point that I feel like I can ride it pretty proficiently. And as I say, I don't find that riding electrics is any harder. In a way, the way that you're not changing gear, you're not playing on the clutch and stuff, you can pay so much more attention, and also because you don't feel the engine vibrations, you can pay so much more attention to the grip and the feel of the tyres and the way that the bike is handling the corner. It almost feels like you have less to think about. Of course, this all comes down to personal preference with bikes, and no one's telling you to go and buy an electric now if you don't want to. Don't. But there are people out there who buy these. There is someone watching this video now who's looked at this and has got the cash flow to be like, I bloody want that. Well, if you do, let them know I sent you away, because I'd like a free t-shirt or something. Now, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you'll know that I recently said that the Zero SRS is my new dream bike. And obviously, I'm having to make a decision whether I think this is my new dream bike or not. You know, on pin-up poster averages, this should be because it's more expensive. But it's not about the price, it's about the rideability. I am coming to a conclusion on that one. And I'm not going to tell you yet. You've got to wait for my review as to which one I prefer. It might surprise you, it might not. So there you go, that's a closer look and a bit more information on the Eva. It'll be interesting to see how people, you know, make a reaction between this at 30k and the Zeros at 20k, when they normally make comparisons of, like, you know, saying, oh well, for this much money I can get a petrol version. I don't know how people are going to take this bike. So far, what's been quite interesting is rather than people going, I can't believe how much that thing costs, everyone said that thing's mental, I love it. I think that's probably down to about 50% on the looks, maybe, and about 50% on the sound it makes, because it's mental. As I say, I've already made a couple of videos riding this bike, and I will be making more. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button, subscribe to see more of it, and if you'd like to help support this channel, and also if you're watching this on YouTube and it's released today, you'll probably find the next couple of videos on this bike are already on my Patreon. Patrons get videos at least 3 days early, but it's normally more like a week. So if you really want to see those now, then please join my Patreon and help support this channel that makes it possible. If not, as I say, leave a like and a subscribe, and I would appreciate it. Catch you in the next one. Bye bye.